Okay, here's a stretching routine that covers all of your body parts and major muscle groups. It especially focuses on your hamstrings, which are connected to sitting too long, and your lower back, as well as your hip flexors, which sometimes can get tight from running when you're a little bit older, or from just sitting and not being super active and running around like a little kid. So in general, you want to spend about 30 seconds on each stretch. So what I do is I breathe in 4 seconds and out 7 seconds. And I do that 3 times. And that's about 30 seconds. But the type of breathing also relaxes your nervous system, and it's a handy way to count. So I'll be breathing in 4, out 7. And as I breathe out 7, I relax a little bit more into the stretch. Sometimes you feel your body has tensed up against the stretch, like it's protecting itself. And so as you're breathing out, you can consciously relax those muscles. And stretching your hands out like this will also give you a bit of a stretch in your back as well. So I spend a lot of time with legs apart to start because that affects a lot of the other stretches. Go to the left side. You can go like this. This will make it more along your side, but I like to kind of find the happy medium between the stretching out my hamstring and my side, because if I go like this, I feel it more in my side, less in my hamstring. So I do this stretch, come over to this one, looking for that stretch inside and the hamstring. Breathing in and breathing out slowly. And every time you breathe out, you'll feel yourself sink a little bit deeper into the stretch. Now, I like to go back to the middle, except for this time I'm seeing where I still feel tight in my hamstring. So if I go a little bit here, I feel it there. Breathe into it a little bit. Middle feels pretty good, but then over here feels pretty tight still. I want to be pretty loose. Alright, once again, we're going to stretch our hamstring, but this will be the lower part. So this is your feet in a neutral position, not pointed, not arched back, just leaning forward. And of course, this is a common stretch that gets kind of right behind your knees and into your lower back. Do a version of that stretch 3 times because that's how important it is. Now butterfly. Here you bring your heels as close as you can, and then you reach out as far as you can and let yourself kind of fall into it, kind of pulling yourself forward if it feels too easy. Once again, 3 breaths of 4 in and 7 out. Alright, we'll go back to straight legs, but this time pointing your toes. Sometimes you'll feel it along the top of your feet as well as on your hamstrings, which those need to be stretched as well. The top of your feet. As I'm explaining, first part, you be taking your first breath so that when I come in, you're already working on your second breath. Now we're going to do a twisting and glute stretch. So this one, the twist is good for your spine and your back. You want that, but you can also press against your knee that's up, and you should feel it in parts of your glute and hips. I like to turn my neck as well as part of the twist, especially the way I'm going with it along the twist. And switch. Now at this point, come back to the final stretch where you're pulling your toes back, and this is where you'll feel it the most under here. You don't want to be too hard, but this is the final stretch for our hamstrings, and so we should be feeling pretty loose by now. Now sometimes I just move straight to the ones where I won't be sitting down, but right now I'm feeling a little bit tight. My hip flexors into my upper quadriceps. So this is a stretch you can do, a variation of the hurdle stretch, where I'm leaning back and I feel it right here. We're going to begin stretching top side of those muscles as well. I'm just moving it around to where I feel the stretch. If you don't feel it, then you're obviously loose there. Some people will do this stretch like this. You'll feel it in your hamstring, and you might feel it a little bit there. But my upper quadriceps are what's tight right now. So I add this one here since I'm already in a sitting position. Leaning back into the stretch, the more loose I get. Okay, for the next one, some people don't need to stretch their wrists and their hands, but I definitely do. So it's kind of leaning into the stretch. Definitely feel it all along here, but for me especially my fingers, which are tight from my injuries and autoimmunity. Former autoimmunity, I'll say. Don't want to go too hard on this stretch. You could injure yourself, as with all of them, but this one especially, you just want a nice, gentle stretch. Nothing painful, not really pushing it. I don't spend time just stretching my neck because I tend to do it as I'm doing other stretches kind of anytime. Helps to loosen it up. Alright, we're going to do down dog. If you're wearing socks and your feet slip out from under you, you can put it up against the wall.
and then that won't happen. But I have pretty good traction right here. Trying to keep kind of about like a pyramid. And obviously you feel it a lot right there, pushing your heels into the ground and kind of your upper shoulders towards the back, keeping your legs straight as you can. But it's okay if there's a little bit of bend, if that helps you feel the stretch better. Then after you've done that a little bit, you can bend your knees more, which you'll feel the stretch in your Achilles tendon, which is especially good if you've been running. Once again, another hamstring stretch, so I don't spend a ton of time on it. Because we've done that a lot. Then I come up into snake pose, keeping my back nice and arched, relaxing my belly into it, doing my neck again. From here, we're going to do a hip flexor stretch. So you bring your foot to the outside of your hand. Some people like it at a 45-degree angle, just whatever feels comfortable. Lift up. If this is good enough stretch right here, then that's fine. You can kind of lean into it and you'll get lower and lower, and you'll feel it here as well as on your other hip flexor. I lift up like this so I can really lean my body forward and really feel it on the far hip flexor. I can lay down into it a little bit more as I get flexible. And while we're in that position, not on your kneecap, you lean back just under your kneecap, and then you can lean forward once again, another type of hamstring stretch. So you'll notice if your foot's out here, you might be much more flexible. I like to almost bring it straight in line with my other one because I'm less flexible when my foot is across the center line of my body in my hamstring. And we're switching, you'll get a better view of the hip flexor here. Now as I'm leaning forward into it, feeling that really stretch with a little bit on the other one as well. By this point, I tend to do only 2 breath cycles because I'm already pretty loose from all the previous stretching of my hamstring and hip flexor. And it's feeling nice and good and relaxed. Leaning forward, feeling it here. If you wanted to work on your splits, this would be a great time to do it, which is a mix of hip flexor and hamstring flexibility. And if you lean forward, it's more hamstring, backward, it's more hip flexor. Find where it's getting both of them. You can sit in that a little bit. Up to you. Same with the other side, you could do the splits there. So, what I do now, since I've been down on the floor, I stretch up, just reaching back. You won't be able to see it, but just kind of flexing my back the other way. Now, I put my hands together behind me. This is going to stretch my chest, kind of letting it fall over. My knees are not straight, they're slightly bent, where I feel the stretch in the hamstring. But this is more focusing on your chest. If you can't wrap your fingers together, You can use a towel or something in between. The more you can wrap together, the more you can bring them together as you get more flexible when you're up at the top. You'll notice I like to combine multiple stretches one time.
Now on your toes, you reach back. If you can't do this, use a towel or something to pull your arms together. And stretch in both. So there's a bit of pulling up on the lower arm and down on the upper arm, but it's more the elbow facing down, that shoulder, that's going to be stretched. Sometimes I twist because it just provides a slightly different stretch. We switch. I think this is the one you said you have trouble on. All right. Then the final stretch. If you can do this hamstring stretch, you lean back. Some times you might need to put a pillow behind you or a block, but if you're flexible, you'll be able to relax. And actually, I'm having to like push my hips down so I can feel it. And then while I'm doing that, I'm stretching this shoulder. So I'm kind of pulling it across my body, pushing it down. You should feel it all along there. The last bit of a shoulder stretch. You don't want to do this if it hurts your knees too much. Shouldn't feel a lot of tension on your knees, it's mainly your quadriceps. While I'm down here, sometimes I like to give a really good stretch. And your entire body has now been stretched.